Let's face it, the residents of Bikini Bottom have got to be the most insufferable bunch of aquatic weirdos to ever populate the ocean floor. These folks wake up every day and choose chaos, pettiness, and bad vibes. It's like their morning coffee is brewed with a heaping dose of, how can I make someone's life miserable today? You think the ocean's full of peaceful creatures floating through life? Nah. These sea critters are extra on every level and not in a good way. Take Squidward, for example. This guy has the personality of a soggy cardboard box. All he does is mope around, play his clarinet, and complain about how everyone else is ruining his artistic genius. Oh, sorry, we didn't realize your one-man pity party was a private event. Meanwhile, he's constantly snapping at SpongeBob, who's just trying to spread some sunshine. Sure, SpongeBob can be annoying, but at least he's not a walking storm cloud who thinks the world owes him a standing ovation for showing up. And speaking of SpongeBob, yeah, he's no angel either. He's the textbook definition of too much energy, not enough awareness. You'd think someone that cheerful would balance out the negativity in Bikini Bottom, but no. He's out here making everyone's lives harder with his endless antics. You're late for work. Don't worry, SpongeBob's already on the bus, singing a 12-verse sea shanty about jellyfishing. Trying to enjoy a quiet meal at the Krusty Krab? Sorry, SpongeBob's flipping patties like his life depends on it, and somehow creating a grease fire and a musical number simultaneously. He means well, but that's like saying a hurricane is just refreshing weather. Then there's Patrick, SpongeBob's partner in crime, and the undisputed king of bad ideas. Patrick is that one friend who shows up uninvited, eats all your snacks, and then somehow blames you when your fridge is empty. The guy lives under a literal rock, which makes sense because his brain operates on about 2 neurons taking turns running the place. Yet he somehow always manages to drag SpongeBob into the worst situations. Remember when they stole a balloon on Free Balloon Day? Classic Patrick move. Dumb plan, zero follow-through, and somehow he's surprised when they get caught. And don't even get me started on Mr. Krabs. If greed were an Olympic sport, this crab would have more gold medals than Michael Phelps. Mr. Krabs would charge you a nickel just to breathe in the Krusty Krab. He's got SpongeBob and Squidward working in borderline sweatshop conditions, all while hoarding money like he's auditioning for an episode of Underwater Hoarders. And yet, he'll risk the safety of his entire business just to save a single penny that fell under the grill. Priorities, am I right? The man loves money more than his own daughter, Pearl, who, by the way, is the only character with an ounce of common sense. But she's stuck in a never-ending loop of teenage drama and daddy issues. Poor girl never stood a chance. Even the background characters in Bikini Bottom are a mess. Those anchovies? Always swarming, always screaming, like a living nightmare of bad diners everywhere. The town's fish population? A mob mentality waiting to happen. Even Sandy Cheeks isn't off the hook. Sure, she's smart, and she can karate chop her way out of any situation, but she's got a temper hotter than the surface of the sun. One wrong word, and she's ready to turn a friendly conversation into a full-on sparring match. And don't let her Texan charm fool you. She's just as chaotic as the rest of them. Who builds a giant rocket in their backyard just for fun? Sandy does. And then she lets SpongeBob and Patrick mess around with it, because apparently common sense isn't in her vocabulary. Let's not overlook Mrs. Puff. The poor pufferfish has the misfortune of being SpongeBob's driving instructor, but that doesn't excuse her, creative teaching methods. She's constantly trying to get out of work, whether it's by faking injuries or straight up sabotaging SpongeBob's driving tests. At this point, it's a miracle she hasn't packed her bags and moved to another ocean entirely. But no, she sticks around as if Bikini Bottom doesn't already have enough drama. The town's infrastructure? Don't even get me started. Bikini Bottom gets destroyed at least once a week, and nobody seems to care. A sea monster rampages through downtown. Just another Tuesday. It's like the entire town has collectively agreed to live in a state of perpetual dysfunction. The more you think about it, the more you realize that everyone in this underwater fever dream is a walking disaster. It's not just the main characters or the occasional lunatics passing through town. It's everyone. Every fish, sponge, and crustacean is somehow worse than the last, and they've turned the ocean floor into a cesspool of bad attitudes, questionable decisions, and just plain chaos. Let's get back to Mr. Krabs for a second. Mr. Krabs isn't just greedy. He's a hustler who would probably sell bottled air to people already living underwater. Then there's the regular customers at the Krusty Krab. These guys are the absolute worst. No one in Bikini Bottom knows how to behave in public, and the Krusty Krab is their favorite stage to put on the worst performances imaginable. You've got anchovies who stampede, like it's Black Friday, every time SpongeBob flips a patty. You've got fish who order the most complicated meals and then complain that it took more than 5 seconds to prepare. But maybe the problem isn't just the people. Maybe it's the entire town. Bikini Bottom itself seems to thrive on dysfunction. The town has no laws, no police force, and apparently no building codes. Buildings collapse on the regular, the roads are always a mess, nothing makes sense. And let's not ignore the fact that jellyfish, literal floating tasers, roam freely in town, stinging people at will. The citizens just accept it as part of life. Normal towns have pigeons. Bikini Bottom has death traps on tentacles. And what about the background fish? You might think they're just there to fill out the scenery, but oh no, they are active participants, and these guys are always ready to form a mob, and it doesn't take much to rile them up. Remember when Plankton tricked everyone into thinking chum was the new hot cuisine? These fools ditched the Krabby Patty overnight, like it wasn't the very thing keeping the town alive. And don't even get me started on how easily they're swayed by literally anyone with a megaphone. And then there's the Flying Dutchman, who's basically the neighborhood ghost that won't mind his own business. Instead of haunting pirate ships or treasure chests, he spends his time tormenting SpongeBob and Patrick because, apparently, even the afterlife in Bikini Bottom is full of pettiness. And let's not forget Larry the Lobster, the self-absorbed gym bro of the sea. Larry struts around like he owns the place, flexing his muscles and bragging about his bench press. But where's Larry when Bikini Bottom needs real help? Nowhere. He's too busy lifting weights and taking selfies on the beach. In the end, Bikini Bottom isn't just a town. It's a social experiment gone horribly wrong. Everyone is so wrapped up in their own nonsense that the entire town is basically one bad day away from total collapse. But maybe that's what makes Bikini Bottom so fascinating. It's a mess, sure, but it's their mess. And somehow, against all odds, they make it work. Sort of. So there you have it. Bikini Bottom, the most ridiculous underwater soap opera of all time. Every resident is either wildly selfish, completely clueless, or both, and somehow they all make it work.